the new Unreal Engine 5 early access. So finally we can get our hands on and play around with the new technology that was kind of hyped some time ago, and everyone was kind of curious how it will look like in the end. Well, it's not like the final release yet, but we can always have something to test, play around, check how it's really working.
Playing around. It's a good word, because it looks like a huge toy for adults.
Just for the listeners who might not know what Unreal Engine is. Unreal Engine is a game engine made by Epic Games, and it's the engine that runs Fortnite. It runs games like Batman, Arkham City, and it's just very popular. And recently, they released the early access for Unreal Engine 5, and the reason a lot of people are excited for it and looking forward to it is because it's moving. There's a couple of features that are definitely next generation, and it's splitting a lot of people. And I guess we can talk about that. And let's begin. Have you guys tried out Unreal Engine 5, or what's your experience with it so far?
Well, I had a very short peep how it looks like. I was able to install it on my PC and just open it, play around with a test project. I didn't download this test scene that they provided, this Valley of Ancients, or how it's called, like the big rocky landscape that's in all the demos. But I just explored things, tried to download some stuff from the Quixel library, the Megascans library, throw in a bunch of stuff. Just like you open up Blender or any other tool and just play around with it, check whether you can kind of get a grip on it. I had some previous experiences with the Unreal 4, not very much, but I was able to do some stuff there. And what immediately hit me was the UI was really simple right now. It's
really sexy.
I think it's you can quite easily get an idea of what's where. I had some issues where at first with the connection with this whole library, the Megascans library. At first, I didn't quite get it. It seemed so simple in the demos, you just drag and drop, but you really had to first download, and then from the asset browser, you could just drag and drop, which I could. I had. It took me some time to figure out, but generally, it's pretty simple. I think it kind of hit me how similar these changes in UI are to what Blender recently did. Streamlining the workflow, making things in panels. It was kind of quite well organized, I think.
Yeah, the coolest thing I think for me, besides Nanite and Lumen, which is the new features, is control space, man. How when you wanna make a full screen in Blender, you just press control space in the viewport and it just gets bigger. Unreal Engine 4 did not have that, so you had to deal with this tiny ass screen and press F11 to go full screen if you wanted to get real estate. And now they copied Blender and they got control space. The viewport gets bigger, and to me that's thank God they finally did it. It's Blender getting the left click instead of right click.
Yeah, that's, I think, I watched a little bit of videos from game developers commenting on the experience, on the demos and stuff, and most of them were quickly noticing that change as the best thing that could happen to it, right? Just being able to focus on the viewport and just work directly in. I guess that's the kind of direction where everything is trying to go, to make things as streamlined in software, especially that kind of complicated software that is kind of contextual. It's just allowing you to get the tools that you need at the moment. Maybe perhaps in the future it will be even kind of guessed by your preferences or whatever.
Yeah,
hardwired with your internal chip, just guessing what you're about to do right now, and then the tools are just handy. Placed where you need them at the moment.
I can only say from the perspective of a person who first used it, I have never used Unreal before, and I opened it and I thought that this is I'm missing something, or this is only my impression. this UI. I went through all the options like very quickly, like within 15 minutes or 30 minutes. These options which are accessible from the main UI.
Mhm.
And I thought, okay, so am I missing any options? Like there are like maybe three on the upper bar. There are like three lists to choose from. So for example, when I compared to 3ds Max or Maya, it was very, very simple. So I had the impression I could instantly go into playing around with this sample scene, and but I don't know, maybe there's I guess there are more options there, but I need to go into them. But it was very quickly to have a general idea of the whole thing, of the whole software, like instantly. So I guess for somebody who'd like to try Unreal, like me, like the first time, it's very easy. It's like almost like I think SketchUp is more complicated at the first glance than this software. So there was that sample scene with architectural, like very, very, very simple. So I could like try to start to put together the scene. So I guess it's from the ArcViz point of view, like for people who are outside of the game development business, if this is the route where this software is going, then it will be very easy and to get into that.
Speaking of ArcViz, though, what do you guys think about how it stacks up to traditional rendering with I guess V-Ray or cycles? Because the first thing I noticed was I have a UE4 project that I imported to UE5 just to play around, right? And in Unreal Engine 4, everything runs smoothly, and I have ray tracing on. And then I put it into Unreal Engine 5, and it feels a lot like running Eevee or running cycles in rendered mode in Blender, where it's just like 5 frames per second. And I have a pretty decent card, I think, for a video card. So how do you guys think it stacks up to, traditional rendering methods?
I think this is the future because of the ease of use and that you can see the effect in real time and you can play around with it. So finally my experience is that you can play with some realistic renderings, shaders to some degree, but post-production is very important. So I've seen guys who are doing very cool visualizations with not a lot of skills when it comes to shading and this part, because they were able to add the wow effect in Photoshop. So I can imagine that with Unreal, if you can you can create the environment so quickly, you can put together the general view, which looks very cool, like the whole render of this sample scene and this valley. It looks very cool. I can imagine that it is enough of output for a lot of people who are doing like ArcViz, maybe in architectural studios, and just add some Photoshop and it looks cool. And it's very easy to play.
I think it's kind of like because Unreal even like when it was Unreal 4, it already kind of entered the ArcViz because it's also free for that purpose, right? If you use that for ArcViz, it's totally free to use, and I think it already impacted the whole scene, so to speak. Even if you see take a look at what Chaos does with the V-Ray, and then they launched the whole Project Lavina, which now is called Vantage, right? It's kind of like a similar thing, like where you get a more live preview of what you're doing with the scene, and then you can, if you want, like high quality rendering, you can always this is a V-Ray scene thing, so you can jump to V-Ray and like make the final renders with an offline renderer. And I guess I've seen like a video from a guy that's analyzing this Unreal 5 for interior ArcViz, and he was like not very much impressed with the general look of it at first glance, especially the reflections and stuff like that. And then he turned on the hardware ray tracing function on, and it was like much better. But of course, it involved a lot more computing, and the frame rate dropped, as you said, right? So I guess it's still not not the one solution for all, right? It's still a little bit of a quality loss if you're doing this in real-time renderers like Unreal, even this Unreal 5, like what it was winning with, I think the demos, it was mostly the Quixel library, right? The Megascans library, which had such a great collection of highly detailed environment assets, which look great. And I think this they call it Nanite, right? This technology.
Yeah.
This is like probably the most exciting out of all of these new things in Unreal 5. I've seen like a game developer guy who was also not that super impressed with this lighting thing, because he immediately
This is a Cherno.
He noticed immediately the shadows are kind of noisy at the edges and stuff like that. So it's not like super mind blowing after a closer look, but the technology about the geometry, the crazy amount of geometry being virtualized somehow, and that's pretty exciting. And I think like from a Blender user perspective, that's kind of like exciting, because that's the thing that Blender was kind of suffering most. Like people were complaining about high poly meshes being managed. So I'm pretty curious about when this technology will somehow drip down to our daily lives, maybe using Blender as well.
I mean, I was just gonna ask though, because like you said, like I watched that video with the Cherno reviewing the shadows, right? And it is a little noisy around the edges. So as an ArcVis person, what does a client look for in a render? Like, do you care about making sure every single ray is perfect with zero noise and the shadows are perfect and the reflections are beautiful, or do they care more about, hey, let's just give me an output? Because
that just probably depends on what client you're aiming for and how picky they are. And generally, sometimes it's more about the general impression. So it's more how clever you kind of use the tools that you have. But that's the case of Corona being so popular in the ArcVis department, I guess, because it's kind of like very easy to get this photographic feel out of the renders straight out of the box, like without much tweaking in the shaders and stuff. And it's kind of like gives you the out of the box Corona look, so to speak. And people are enjoying it because it's just looking nice, right?
That's enough as a raw material for adding the whole vibe in Photoshop. So my impression was that when architects had to choose between this wow effect made in Photoshop, even overdone or whatever, like there's that cool image, and between the realistic reflection, stuff like that, they prefer the general impression. Especially that, architects, for example, are learned to create all kinds of illustrations. So, and also they are when it comes to graphics and the visual presentation, they are very well educated. So they are not so much attached to the photorealism itself. Just give me as much photorealistic look as it's possible. And also it has to sell the impression. So I noticed, for example, on the farm, there are some users who render, advanced users in Studio who render ArcVis, and very often the renders are lacking in quality when it comes to details and stuff like that, because the whole magic is done in post-production. So this is finally, let's say if you are buying, perfumes, like there's a commercial of perfumes, you don't really care about how much realistic is the bottle. You care about the whole impression of this design of the bottle and the colors and the stuff, the vibe. So the detail and the technical part is it's like it's a little right now. It's photorealism is not enough for sure. It's not a feature itself which is giving that wow effect because it's everywhere, and it's like this invisible visual effects in movies. It's if it's done properly, then nobody can see it really because it works as a whole thing, and it's a very good basis for the artistic work in post-production.
But I guess from a technical standpoint that you are asking for, like, is it important if the renderer kind of produces the nice effect out of the box and you don't have to worry about the noise there, or I don't know, something's not working. It's like you used to have a lot of fight with splotches if you used photon mapping, for example, or stuff like that. It's kind of like not applicable anymore in most cases, right? Because the render engine kind of developed enough and they are kind of preventing you to do the stuff wrong, or so I guess it's the tools are kind of trying to become like as photorealistic as possible out of the box without much tweaking for you, because it's a reliable tool, right? You don't have to correct things in the post-production. You can artistically drive them in some direction, correct them, overlay with additional stuff. But if you can rely on the tool giving you clean and nice results and correct results, then you can kind of like easier translate the photographical experience. For example, if you have something that's photorealistic, right, and correctly.
In Unreal, this is I think this is like this software is the like the window to the future, because everybody when thinking about the 3D, everybody was thinking that this is where it's going to. Like, I will open my scene and I will just merge with it, and I will walk around with it, look at it as it really looks in real time. And for example, photography is around being able to see the stuff all the time. You are looking for a good framing, for a good position, and Unreal for sure is closer to this experience than another software. Just the quality part is that which professionals care about it, professional or ArcViz guys, creators, and for example preparing to the print and stuff like that. So but this is like the door is open, and now this is, in my opinion, this is only the matter of the hardware, which is going to be faster and be able to to raise that bar of features, of technical rendering features higher and higher. But this is the closest I can see to what I dreamed as a kid, or when I was working in 3D without any GI stuff like that, and the closest like to this final experience, which is I think all the 3D shooting for, which is just being able to create in real time and see what happens in this virtual reality,
and create like a virtual reality, really, because this is kind of heading, the whole game dev is kind of heading towards that perfect virtual reality where you can create unreal, so to speak, spaces that are real.
I feel like
almost real to experience.
Yeah, I feel like we're a couple of years behind, because for the listeners who don't know what you need, right? Like, we're all excited as professional artists to make stuff, but I feel like we're a couple generations behind in terms of hardware, because the minimum requirements, at least according to Unreal, is you need at least 32 gigabytes of RAM and GTX 1080, which is like the powerhouse from like 2017. And the recommended specs is 64 gigabytes of RAM and I think a 2080 Ti or something, or a 3080 or 90, which are really beefy cards that it's easily like a couple of $1,000s for a workstation just to run the thing. So, and considering the global crisis with Corona and the GPU shortage and cryptocurrency, and all the industries are like crying for video cards. Yeah, it's the technology's there, the concept is there, and it works, but it's gonna be a long time, I think, before any one of us can really show off the true potential of
It's like
of
with
it from hardware side.
Cyberpunk game.
Yeah, like it's too weak hardware. Like trying to run a next gen game on like last generation hardware is a nightmare. Like my experience last night, I tried that out. I'm running a RTX 2060, and yeah, I thought I had a beefy system. Apparently not. This thing was running at 10 frames per second. Like it's hurt to use.
Oh. Do you mean the sample scene? This with this
No,
robot?
just my regular scene. Like I have a UE4 scene that I've been working on the side, and it's literally just a table, like a lamp, and even that's lagging. It's literally like it has 3 lights maximum, and like a couple assets that are game optimized. By the way, they're not like Nanite enabled, and it was running in, like super slow. Like, what the hell? Yeah, even Blender in Cycles mode runs better than this. So it's a weird feeling, like having the technology but not having the hardware to run it properly, you know.
Yeah, I guess because we have to also realize this is the kind of like early access of something that will be production ready in a year from now. They said like early 2022, right? But it's still kind of like hyping the future more than where we are at
usability
already. So and even that, you know, that thing that's already there to play with, you know, it's kind of impressive. Of course, it's exciting, but it's
super
not yet
impressive.
Yeah, but it's not yet like, you know, it's not yet the ultimate holy grail. You know, that it still has some quirks in it. Even if you see the demos, like the company surely made sure that the demos showed the best of the best, right?
Yeah,
the engine performing at its best, and
but
just like you said, none of us will be able to for some time to achieve this.
I wanted to ask you guys though about that, because for the viewers who don't know about the new features, it has 2 big things. One is Nanite, and Nanite is this thing where you can finally put in like extremely dense meshes into your scene, and it'll optimize it in the back end, so it will actually run even though your model has like 1 million polys. So you can have millions and millions of polys in your scene, and it'll work in real time. And then the second one is Lumen, which is a global lighting thing. So before, you had to bake your lightings to get global illumination and stuff, but now it's real time. And I wanted to ask you guys, because I think you guys have tried putting like a 1 million poly ZBrush sculpt into 3ds Max or Blender, and it's already lagging hard, right? I feel like the only 3D software that can handle millions of polys and still look decent is ZBrush. So from a creator's standpoint, do you feel like being able to do lighting and arc-vis and stuff in real time compared to like chugging along in Blender or 3ds Max, do you think it's worth giving a shot to Switch? Because I think even for the holiday cabin, Tom was having a hard time running the scene because it was such a heavy scene, right? So what do you guys think about that?
We haven't tested it that way because first we need to check how to import and, you know, create all the stuff we create in other software to Unreal. And also, I don't know about the scenes with environment. It doesn't always fit. The libraries may not always fit our needs, but I think it's worth testing. I wouldn't try to make a project like from scratch there now, because it's all early in development, and I guess you know, this is like a new car. It's it's going to next year's will show all the technical problems and all the downsides of this software. I think this is very, very tempting to play around with it and check it, but not yet as a choice to do a project.
Early access.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, but I guess you know, there are guys from, I don't know, for example, from some look dev or concept art departments, which will definitely jump in straight. You know, people like, for example, Jama Jubayev, right? Who just like to play with the new toys, and because you can really get get something working out of it, especially if it's like a concept work, where you just have to bash a few things and make them look good, and be able to to play around with the camera, with some camera features like depth of field, and just quickly adjust stuff on the fly, and have almost cinematic, at least previews or something like that to work with in Photoshop later on. I think that's super exciting, right? For and being able to just like collate massive amounts of rocks, debris, or whatever.
I just wonder how they did it. Really, this is such a huge amount of geometry, and why it's not possible in, let's say, 3ds Max or other software, and it's possible.
It's weird, actually. I looked at it, and the way it works, at least from how I understand it, is so you get like traditionally you'd have like LODs, or level of detail assets. So the closer your camera is to the object, the more polys, because obviously you'd see more detail, and the farther it is, the less details it has. And if Nanite feels kind of like a magical auto LOD almost, because what it does is it kind of makes like a preview mesh based on the high poly one, and that's what it uses to like show the thing. So it's thinking of it as a low poly mesh that is essentially decimated on the spot, but it's showing the high poly thing. So it's some weird black magic stuff. Yeah,
because it's like this adaptive degradation. So the assets are prepared that way, right? Optimized for this engine, and it's
not even. It's film ready Omega scans.
No, I guess this is not about the assets themselves. It's more about how the viewport is working with them. How the engine really translates the geometry from the scene towards the viewport, I guess. The technology, I think, is there. Like maybe I'm wrong, but that's what it seems to me. Like it kind of reminds me of the general micro displacement thing, right? Where you kind of tessellate the objects. With the camera, like from the camera, because the viewport really is a camera itself, right? Somehow. So whatever you see there, even if you see a dense geometry somewhere farther away, it's smaller on the screen, so you don't really see the full the full resolution. You just see an approximation of some kind anyway. It's just pretty accurate, right? It's kind of like nicely projected. So there's some coder magic there, definitely, because I've seen a guy who's himself a game engine developer, and he was commenting that this is the most exciting thing, because it's kind of pushing the thing forward that everyone would like to push forward, right? So this is really innovative.
The thing that really impressed me, it was that the view of the whole desert, and then a zoom to a single rock, and the guy played around with this rock. So this is that mind-bending level. As a kid, with my brother, like there were computer games, and there was also like this kind of loop. There's a game with graphics, and there are just the movies, the video clips. So we were all the time, wow, can you imagine how game will be like this video clip rendered before? So then it skipped to the level of the video, and then the gameplay and the video was even better. So at some point, so this is this feature of being able to look at the rock, at the whole desert in a fantastic quality, and then just pick up the rock, just skip between these two scales in such a big quality. It's for me, it was like one of the most impressive parts of this video.
Man, not gonna lie though, Nanite kind of worries me. As much as I'm excited for it, part of me is kind of worried from like a 3D modeler's perspective, because I think all of us have created assets, right? We've made tables, chairs, all the usual ArcViz stuff, and we were taught like, subdivide, follow the topology, make sure your edge loops are over here. And we'd spend so much time like making sure our UVs are optimized, textures are on point. But it feels like now everybody's just gonna like pump in their ugly topology dynamish sculpts into everything, and not care about topology anymore.
Yeah, you know what? When I was watching this video, I had the impression that like boom, there's like this whole area of freedom opened with this technology, and I was thinking, okay, so first, so you have to kind of make use of this freedom and the possibilities, and it will need resources. And I was thinking, so guys, technical guys like in this Andrew Price video who are making the models, and they are worried if the, for example, procedural modeling will take away their jobs. So you're going to lose that part, which, by the way, I think the experience you have is not going to, like, guys like you, is not going to go away. Like, you lost years on studying that, and now, because this is always going to work, these are like these basic fundamental skills and understanding. But then all these resources which you had to invest into that part of optimizing mesh and stuff like that, because now it's like brute force, it's going to be the brute force. This all thing will be streamed to that area of freedom where you need resources to now to do something with this space as well. So I think this is going to, it's you will have one headache less, but you can go that direction.
Yeah.
Finally, I think that also it, how difficult is it going? So these are scans, and scans are one thing, but how difficult, like with this raising quality of this old stuff, and the ability to scale it like from the desert to a little stone, how do you think the texturing is going to be affected, the texturing requirements and work? Because like now you have like how this quality and this scalability is going to affect this your specialization.
Yeah, that's weird to me. Like, I mean, we all know about LODs, right? But there's also this thing for texel density, where depending on how big your texture is, the more detail you can put on your mesh, right? So how the heck is that gonna work? Where you zoom into this rock, and obviously from afar, it's probably gonna use like a 256 by 256 texture. And does it turn into like a 4K texture when you like zoom in? Like, wouldn't that like murder the engine? Like, I think meshes and polys are one thing that a lot of 3D programs have gotten better at. But I think textures have always been behind in terms of like optimization and draw calls. I mean, if you worked in games, like, a lot of people get mad where if you put too much materials on like one mesh, they're gonna be like, "Oh, why'd you put like too many? This is not optimized. It's gonna be too many draw calls and stuff." So on that part, I haven't really looked in too much, but I don't think much is gonna change. Yeah.
Because I was thinking that I was looking at this desert, and there's a lot of randomness there, but also this kind of natural organization. And I was thinking that it would be like, I can imagine such a feature to create textures that all these repetitive patterns in nature of textures, for example, of the surfaces, they are following some kind of I forgot this procedural nature, where, for example, okay, I forgot this word, when like the plants are built that way, everything in nature, like the galaxies, the repetition. Yes, and I guess maybe it will demand, like, for example, like you have a library of kind of all kind of procedural dirt and variations like structures. Like you can, for example, download in general. You can download from the internet all kind of like splashes, like kind of weird material layers to add some more reality to this. And I guess this asks for a procedural solution.
Yeah.
But still, I guess images and scans in general are kind of like the shortcut because the procedural, you can already achieve procedural materials in at a level of reality like really comparable to the photo textures, right? But it's quite consuming to calculate like in real time, I guess. Still, it's sometimes computationally heavy. So I guess it's still like a balancing act.
Yeah, it's only really for art directing and for the artist, like, I want to add more grunge here, or I want to make this wet puddle more bigger. But it's not really something you're supposed to run in real time. And if it does get to a point where it runs in real time,
I guess
holy crap.
That's I guess the direction that it will finally land in, because I mean photos might still have their place, but it's kind of like it's limiting, because if you have a photo, it's just a photo and nothing more in it. And if you take the AI things that are going on, the generators, if you feed those AI algorithms with photos of textures, I guess they can generate textures half randomly or randomly based on what they learn or stuff like that. So I guess all those stuff will be in the end it will be customizable somehow, just like you you have the smart materials in Substance, right, and stuff like that. So everything is kind of going that direction. And what's interesting in Unreal, like outside of these main features, what I found quite interesting was the sound creation tools that are introduced. Like they have these nodal system for building game sounds, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is new, and I think that might be also very interesting for game dev artists or cinematic artists, whatever. It's just like probably a starting point.
I'm not familiar with audio, but I feel like it's a similar system to how they made the soundtrack for Doom. Because for those who don't know about what they did, was they hired this artist named Mick Gordon for the soundtrack, and that's why Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal has like this insane like rock soundtrack. And the way they did stuff was like it's almost like a procedural, or like you'd go into a battle and then it'll play this track, and then depending on what part of the battle you're in, the track will change. So it's a sound system that adapts to the player's movements. Mm-hmm. So you're always feeling hype.
But it's kind of like a new genre of music, really.
This is the dream of game master of tabletop role playing game. Like this is you like when I played these games, it was like the game master was switching the tracks on CD depending on the mood. Yeah. So this is it. But I was thinking about textures. I was thinking about fractal solutions. Like there are following the all kinds of fractal patterns. I don't know if there is anybody studying what kind of possible like fractal repetitive patterns are in nature when it comes to textures like rocks and stuff like that. This deserves a focus study, because I guess there's a gravity, which is several vectors which are affecting the look, like gravity, like the water on the bottom of rocks, stuff like that. Isn't
that already part of the master materials though in Unreal Engine 4? Because I remember there's a couple of stuff you can do with materials where, depending on the position of the rock, you'll always have like for example snow piling on top, or if it's near water, you're gonna have water. Like I think that's already a thing though, right?
Yeah, so I think this is the solution for this excess of details, like from the point of view of a modeler or texture artist. Like you cannot handle it anymore with the with given resolution and just painting. Okay, we need more detail. Okay, so you need to find more data for bigger texture. So
yeah, I guess in the end they will implement some kind of AI algorithm that will kind of guess, just like with the denoisers, or there are right now the softwares that are, and
maybe not
AI,
in real time.
We're gonna lose our jobs. Oh no.
Yeah, but this is that freedom. Amiel, then you will not have to care about all that stuff. But on the way, you were attracted to making textures and stuff like that because you like this part of the visual world. You can feel it. You like to play around with it. So you will quit that, and you will have all that freedom to now create any kind of material, like with completely different flow. Like what kind of stuff you can create, like some
for sure.
goo mixed with lava and mixed with steel, stuff like that, So I think this is it's like there's even more work, so to speak, than it was,
or you'll just have to plug in to the matrix and just do nothing.
You gotta be the AI.
Let the AI do the thing for you.
Click
Man,
the seed.
though, the hustle never stops. Like, imagine, like, I don't know how you guys felt about it, where you'd study 3D for a long time and you'd master, like, for example, like IORs and doing materials with specular stuff. And the PBR comes in and you're like, oh man, I gotta learn this now. It kind of feels like that.
The bar is always raising higher, or like just going in a different direction. You can always,
but
set out
for
new
all
goals.
For those skills, you have meta skills. Like for example, I study architecture. So after designing so many buildings, like then in general, I can switch my interest, but I learned many like more general meta skills, like design itself. Let's say, putting together shapes and stuff like that. So if you actually, you would have even some kind of advantage, which I think you don't even expect now, because if you went to that hustle of learning these technicals like IOR and stuff like that, and now this is not needed, then after some time it may be your advantage that you understand materials on such a level. So for example, people would work with it. Okay, it looks cool or not, but then you have so there's that old school guy, grandpa, who enters the room and says about IOR because he knows why it doesn't work, for example.
So that's true.
So these are these meta skills that you can, these lighter skills on top of that, you can change them, and it's a lot of fun.
And you can still remain this 100% human amongst all of those, chip enhanced cyborgs.
Yeah, I guess this is like the artist version of a natural athlete versus a steroided athlete or something.
Maybe,
Maybe.
it's like I think it's all these experiences are applicable to the new reality, which is giving more freedom, basically. That was my impression when I was watching that video. Like it's like there was a wall here and it's open. It's like there's like a landscape of stuff to do, and somebody will have to do that. Or it's
so interesting though, because I think one thing that impressed me about Nanite was so near the end of the Valley of the Ancients demo, the player runs into this big robot, and at first I was like, oh wow, this is Nanite must be really cool to work on like even humanoid objects and stuff. But then the narrator was like, oh, Nanite doesn't work on humans. So what we did here was we put nanite objects on a skeletal mesh. So this thing is work. So the freaking robot at the very end, like if they look at it up close, you can see all the sculpted details, the dents and stuff. It's like, oh my god, one day we're gonna see Pacific Rim in real time. It's insane.
That was actually a cool thing, because I'm not very much into creating this kind of characters. But when they said that they have this skeleton and they added all these parts to the skeleton, like it's not like model it from one mesh. It's like combined from all these parts. I mean, the robot is a good thing for that because it's not like the continuous layer of skin or something like that. But it also looked very cool. Like so the guy who's animating it or doing anything with it can do it independently, and you can just switch all these parts if you want. Like, okay, let's make this robot completely different, or change this or that. Like it kind of sounds like if you can put together this kind of animate this kind of skeleton of this character, then you can use all these assets downloaded from the internet and from the libraries and put together a cool character, like I don't know, like a swamp monster or whatever.
Yeah, and these kind of automation things, there are more of these introduced. Like they showed also the mechanisms correcting the animation of the main character when jumping over an obstacle. So like this rig with automatically adjusting motions. That's kind of like also the thing, right, where you can have an animation and it kind of like smoothly integrates into different variations of the environment.
Yeah, so, because this is for games. So but we are looking through the lens of guys. At least me, I have never worked in game dev, so I look through the lens of, wow, this is cool. What I would do if I sit down with that and play around and I can do myself solo. But of course, this is a tool for professionals, for game creators. So of course they have a huge team and they look at it in a little different way.
Yeah.
So.
What do you guys think about Unreal Engine 5 being used in film? Because I think Mandalorian was being used already, and there's a couple, even the Corridor crew, they're hiring someone who's good at Unreal Engine for film production. What do you guys think about that?
Mm-hmm. We actually talked with DJ about it offline before, so it's. I think this is fantastic tool. This is going to be the future. Like, can you imagine linking the Unreal 9, let's say, with the green screen studio, with actors playing there, and you can, at least on the level of a pre-visualization of the movie design, production design process, being able to basically switch everything in real time and look and and make a decision, like with a director who wants to okay, let's move that mountain, right? Or I don't like this.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of like already almost there, even without going to Unreal 9, as you said, right? They are doing this with these virtual sets. Like they have those studios with large displays, and they kind of they can like live modificate the scenery, and it's already like the advantage that they have is that it's all in camera, so you have the backgrounds, environment, all the stuff that's computer generated. The actors are kind of in the space instead of being just green screen, so they can feel the lighting, everything. It's kind of like influencing the scenery that they are acting in. So it's almost there, right, with these technologies. And I think like the film guys are really excited about this, and probably it has some disadvantages as well, as usual.
Green screen. You guys are also gonna lose your jobs. Prop designers too. We're not the only one.
Like, it's like the detail and the realism versus the like plastic thinking and sketching and having a general vision. Like,
one thing that was commented by I've seen an interview with Ian Hubert, the one man genius of making short films and in Blender, and he was kind of like talking about this technology of live sets, right, with the whole virtual environments around, and he said that's of course it's exciting, but it's kind of like annoying for me as a solo creator, something like that, because up till now with a green screen and some VFX and stuff, he could kind of like almost do this Hollywood stuff level things alone, like or in a team with some nice neat tricks. And right now it kind of like separates this high level production once more, separates from these indie productions all over the world, right?
Yeah, because
you just can't afford this gear.
Yeah, like it's expensive enough to buy like an ultra wide monitor. What more freaking a wall monitor that's like a couple feet high and wide, right?
I guess if you're clever enough, or maybe if you just do that with projectors and screens, might be cheaper. I don't know. just
projectors are expensive though. Like the really nice ones with a crispy. Yeah, they're not cheap. And then I guess a projector would probably be hard too. Like if you go in front, your shadow's gonna be everywhere.
Yeah, you can back project.
Probably Ian Hubbard will need to outsmart the big studios again.
Yeah,
if,
or just find his niche and doing things like we're all kind of talking about as like the Hollywood production of cinema would be the go-to right direction for everything, right? But you can really do things differently, which doesn't make it worse. It's just different, maybe. Yeah, not everyone just is after the blockbusters with Marvel movies or stuff like that.
Yeah. I guess a cool question to ask, which is a bit controversial, is render farms. Do you think render farms' time is numbered?
Well, I think this is a big challenge, at least, like if not danger for online render farms, because I can imagine many people moving to this technology and not needing any offline rendering power. I only think that there will always be some kind of for sure there will be a margin of technological expectations and level that it will. So for example, if you have computers which can at this point generate images of this quality in real time, there will be always a higher quality made offline. Like you can just throw 10 times more computing power on this project and get even bigger quality. I think that when it comes to the whole lighting and GI stuff, there's going to be some kind of upper threshold, like with 4K TV sets, where there's no point of getting more quality because this is not going to be noticeable. But there are other so this is like when I was thinking, this is a hope, but this is not like a strong hope or I'm not confident about this. That, for example, with more computing power and with being able to generate images at this level in real time, you will need more computing power for, let's say, physics or for some simulations, maybe for AI stuff, this kind of thing.
Yeah,
but maybe, for sure, this is a big challenge for like this cloud farms where you have like 2,000 CPUs and they're just rendering. Maybe it's going to be more into renting the servers.
But generally, if you take a look at the general history of CG, it's kind of like always pushing things farther. Like the expectations grow with the technology. Like the technology kind of like supplies for the demand, and it creates the demand as well to some extent. Because you can remind yourself of times where this level of realism wasn't really achievable as right now, and it wasn't expected then. It was just acceptable to have things worse quality because people didn't expect the unachievable, right? But right now it's kind of growing, and even if it will not be like the same rendering technologies, I guess some kind of offline computing power will be. So probably render farms will just adapt to the need for computing power, because what it's really about is like renting computing power, right, offline on the cloud for different reasons, right? People could use that and do use computing power for mining crypto, for I don't know, like you said, simulations, or even for like some research, right? Some research models that require a lot of computing. And I guess that's just the challenge of being adaptive to the market. And I'm still thinking that it's kind of like, of course, it's a sign of things that getting more accessible to people. But as you said, even if you have quite a nice computer setup right now, it might be an issue for you to get the hardware up to date. And it's like all things that are kind of rented. It comes down to whether it's good for you to have it all as your own and take care of it, maintain it, invest in the hardware, or is it better to rent it? And in some situations, in other branches as well, I don't know, video, event making, some companies just tend to rent the equipment just for a single event, right? Because it's more convenient to just outsource stuff. And I guess that model, I think it will stay. It will just adapt and change.
Yeah, and not everybody can afford to spend thousands of dollars on the bleeding edge hardware just to run the thing, right?
Yeah, and the generally the internet connectivity is kind of also advancing. So doing stuff in the cloud is becoming more and more convenient.
Yeah, I mean, it's not it's like the internet speed, for example. It's not about, let's say, 8K being like 2 times faster than 4K. It's like for every such a jump, there's like the new paradigm. Like there's like new. It's not like old stuff, but faster. But there's such a huge difference that it asks for completely new features and completely new services and stuff like that. So for now, let's say we can maybe not imagine that. But let's say, as you said, on the event, let's say you make some visualization in real time, and it will be normal that the guy who's doing that, he will just attach his laptop to this super fast internet and render it on the cloud in real time using some real time engine, something like that. So I was just thinking about the upper threshold of the fidelity of the image itself. Like now we talked about this, like with this 4K TVs. Now you can buy 8K, I think, or 16K, which is we talked about it, and we made some research, also asked some guys online about from the visual industries if this is needed, if there's a point for it or not, and most of them said that 4K is more than enough. Like this is that level of human perception that it doesn't really make sense to make the resolution bigger. And so I was thinking that from that point of view, that might be a problem, because for farms, like there would have to be some kind of like new space opening, like not like linearly as it was so far. Bigger visualization, bigger resolution, stronger computers, less noise, more brute force solutions, stronger computers. Maybe that will be at some point that will be the level, because there's going to be no need for that. But for example, there will be so much excess of free computing power that you can run in real time a simulation of leaves falling from the trees, and or maybe you would like to render it like the solutions like Golem, like the Anima is the simplified version of the crowd. So Golem is simulating the behaviors of the crowd. So let's say at some point that will have to be offline. That will have to be calculated. Some very complicated behaviors of extras on the set of computer generated creatures, stuff like that. Like I'm pretty sure, like every time there's like a new threshold of technology, there's some movie made by some studio which is taking advantage of it, and like cashing the being first position. first Jurassic Park, or Matrix was a different thing, I think. But so,
Mm-hmm.
for example, I can imagine, like, in future, there is going to be movie which is going to happen in the forest, and all the mosquitoes, all the butterflies, all of that stuff will be animated by some kind of golem AI stuff, the behaviors, and that will be something completely new, and people will go to that movie because they want to see the whole forest.
Yeah, I guess it's like the Avatar thing, right? Why the first Avatar used to be such a big thing. It was like it wasn't a good movie. Nobody remembers it, but it made $1 billion. So yeah.
Yeah, it was like this technological threshold made.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, maybe so I went on tangent with Matrix, but yeah, always there's always like this intensive and extensive way of updating stuff. So there was a Matrix, and Matrix was like, I think it was possible to make Matrix earlier, because it was not about having more resources. It was about using them in a different way, because at this age of CG, like, it was okay, let's make more dinosaurs, let's make them more realistic, let's make, and Matrix was different because it changed the whole paradigm of visual effects and creating this virtual world. And by the way, they actually, after this revolution of not the amount of stuff, but of quality, like, they switched it, and okay, with this technology we can actually do something completely different than just adding more monsters or adding more spaceships.
Yeah.
But in the next parts of Matrix, they went the same way. They made the Matrix, but with more robots, more stuff of the same kind. But from time to time, there's going to somebody appearing and saying, okay, with this technology, we can do something that was not possible, not in terms of the volume or numbers, but something completely different. I was thinking, sometimes I'm thinking about this when I'm watching through some like ZBrush galleries, which are fantastic, and this is just mind-blowing stuff. But very often it's like, okay, there are more monsters, even more monsters, and all these monsters look like from the Doom or games. But with these tools, you can create some kind of creature completely like off, like completely. You can, and it's like from time to time somebody like that needs to come and change the paradigm.
I guess in a nutshell, unless you're rich, unless you have the bleeding edge software, and unless you have like the most stable version of Unreal, and the future's still way far off, you're probably gonna need a render farm. And speaking of render farms, garagefarm.net. If you need to save time, if you don't have a strong system, if you have a decent internet, render with us. Render your thing on garagefarm.net.
Yeah, and I guess one thing that won't change, like with all these technological advancements, is a need for human support, which is, like, all the technology is advancing and the problems arising are also kind of advancing, because it's so much new technology to harness and to get a grip of. So we can't recommend anything more than our support team on the chat 24/7. They're all for you to support you in any kind of technical issues, and I think that's a big winning strategy for any kind of business for the future.
Don't pull out your hair. Have someone else pull out their hair for you. I guess we can end on that one. Anything else you want?
That's an optimistic note.
Yeah.
Render farms
waiting for the final release of Unreal.
Render farm master race.
Yeah. So stay real.
They are coming, by the way. There's going to be UFO related conference press in June. So we'll see.
Guess that's it. That was Amiel. That was DJ. And that
Andrew,
was
and see you in the next one.
See ya.
See ya.
Hear ya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.